Hello and welcome to the final bell. It is great to have you with us for another week. I know I wanted it to be still an undefeated week, but it is a tough season of football and losses do come throughout the year. It's how you bounce back from them that obviously is the most important thing. So the Cats going down to the Demons, as we all know, on Saturday night. We're going to take that game apart as best we can. We're going to look forward to the big clash against Port Adelaide Friday night at GMHBA Stadium. And with me, as she is every single week, Meg McDonald is here. Hello, Meg.
Hey, Lingy. So, Friday night footy, let's go, hey?
Yeah, let's just move straight on to that one, shall we? As we do here on the podcast, we grit our teeth sometimes and we have to talk about, in the end, a really close game and a game that had opportunities to win. Mm-hmm. Probably would have felt like pinching it had we won it. But I suppose that's the great thing about this team is even when they, and this is probably using the coach Chris Scott's words, were off, the team was still in there right at the end with a bit of a chance to sneak a win.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll probably dissect the game further than this, but I felt that once it opened up at halftime, I'm going, once it opens up, we'll be fine. Third quarter, we seemed to get our groove back. And then at three-quarter time, I thought, cool, we'll run away with this one. So credit to Melbourne and some very fancy goal kicking that they got the job done.
It was a nice goal by Bailey Fritsch. Got to give him that one. Okay, let's just go to the second quarter really quickly, get the true ugliness out of the way. Goalless, points galore. Sloppy, dour play from both teams.
Yeah.
Got to say that. It felt, I was working there with Channel 7. I did an interview with Christian Petrarca walking off the ground. It felt like Melbourne were actually happy with that. Like Christian Petrarca said, this is how Melbourne play. And I thought, do you really want it to be goalless? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, it was about getting the game onto their terms. So it needed something after half-time to get the Cats rolling a little bit and breaking the game open. But second quarter, it was pretty nasty footy.
At risk of sounding, I guess, too parochial and speaking on other team supporters, I was actually in the MCC committee room for this game, which was an absolute treat.
Very nice, Meg.
Went to the AFL for the first time with my mum in maybe ever, or since I was growing up. So she's not getting another invite. Bad luck for her. Bad omen. Anyway, the Melbourne supporters around me, half time, everyone's going, it's a great game. I'm like, what planet are you on? It's not a great game.
3 goals to 2.
Oh my gosh. But I suppose they mean, that's what it means when people say this looks like a Melbourne game. Yeah. And we're going, this does not look like a Geelong game. We're going to have to, I think, get the ball in the hands of, I needed some more Brian Myers. I wanted some more Tommy Stewart. I think that started to happen in the third quarter, but it was, a tale of two good defences and inaccuracy early on.
Yeah, it was. And it's funny, I don't want goalless quarters and I didn't want it as probably ugly as it was at that time. I don't mind the occasional defensive, tactical game when two good teams are kind of trying to strategize each other a little bit and feel each other out a bit. That's a different type of footy. We can't always have 120 to 110 the scoreline every single week. So I don't mind that. It was just messy footy through that second term in particular. One thing I did note, again, working down on the boundary, it was almost a wet weather game.
Yes.
It was so dewy, so slippery, and there was a lot of fumbling, which obviously played into that type of game style. You mentioned after half-time what the Cats needed more of in order to break the game open a little bit. Grind did get going, certainly. Max Holmes' run became really important, and he was fantastic throughout the game. Geelong appeared to, whenever they took a mark or perhaps got a free kick, they had that little give of a run from behind, handball receive, and that was able to just start breaking a line or two and test that final defensive line of Melbourne a bit to put them under more pressure. Yeah,
I agree. I felt like, I don't know, this is probably hard to quantify, but as Chris Scott's saying, when we looked a little bit off, it's almost like I feel like the difference between the ball is zinging, we're doing all this fancy stuff, Grind's able to express himself and we're finding little gives here and there. When you miss by 30 centimetres on those things, it can look bad. Like the difference between looking like a globetrotter and looking like you've just tried something that's never going to work I think the line's quite fine. Whereas I look at a team like Melbourne, rightly or wrongly, and I think, well, you're great when the ball's in the contest, and what's the difference between good and bad with a team like that? Anyway, that's not quite what you asked. I felt like, you see like that Sam De Koning take a mark and he releases Grind for that inside 50. I felt like we were finding pockets of space more and getting the ball more on the outside, and that's obviously where we've found success this year.
And Chris Scott spoke about after the game that the team perhaps handballed too much.
Yeah.
That one little give to a breaking player, I think the next thing would be to eyes up, hit up a free target, and then they wheel and go, and that would have perhaps taken Stephen May and Jake Lever, who played really good games, out of position more, caught them out of position, versus handball, the first one being a great handball and breaks things open, but then perhaps a second, third, fourth, fifth handball, which was inviting that initial wave of Melbourne pressure and their contested players around the ball, which then leads often to a bit of a rushed dump kick. And again, the point you make, only talking a half a metre off with a kick, or maybe the ball hangs in the air an extra second and a half, and that's Jake Lever coming in across and taking those intercept marks, and that can be the difference. Zach Guthrie, superb again though for the Cats.
Wasn't he? And he's part of a defensive. I mean, before we get on to Zach, I did want to ask you in terms of sharing the ball and the defense. What did you think about Melbourne's approach to their inside 50s, particularly early? How they sort of went all the way around the arc, and I think we got caught out on a sort of slow play defense a few times.
Yeah, they clearly had a tactic of they wanted to slow Geelong down. Now they wanted to do that defensively with their defense, but they also wanted to do that when they had the ball in hand. So the kick mark, I think the number was 35 marks. I think they took in the first quarter, Melbourne. So they wanted to take pace off the game even when they had the ball in hand, and then relied often on just a long kick to a dangerous part of the ground. And unfortunately, it worked really effectively.
Yeah, I mean, I don't coach an AFL side, but that is not how I would have gone about moving the ball forward against a team that is known for outnumbering defence so well, and we're really good aerially. But it did seem to work for them. I feel like, and I only speak for our team, I know that when you are so good at knowing when to come off and impact, that when you're not, when that becomes we've had issues in our team where we're very good at that, and then you lose your intensity of following a lead. I'm just going to follow my opponent and I'm killing this lead, because you're thinking, we've got all these numbers back. My mate who's sitting in the hole will pick up this lead. And there were a couple of times there. I think one, for example, like Sam slipped over trying to pick someone. Yep. There were those sort of instances. So
unfortunately, when an opposition gets that ball control of mark, working it down the ground, eventually you can't help but think, oh, hang on, we've got to cut off one of those marks.
Yes,
so you go back to your point of half a metre. It's just a half a metre little bite on a short one. You think, actually, I've got to cut that one off, but then it ends up long. So you're now slightly out of position to help. I think, to Melbourne's credit, some of their longer high balls, Harry Petty was just on with his marking, but there was a lot of other great body work going on from Melbourne, either forwards or ruckman. Max Gilman played a role where they were really locking down their Geelong opponent to not allow him to take part in the marking contest, which was often allowing Petty, who was in really good form, to be flying solo against an opponent. And when your hands are on sometimes as a forward. So credit to them. They did that really well.
You tried to make it positive and talk about Zach Guthrie, and I went into Melbourne being okay. But let's talk about Zach.
Well, Zach was brilliant again. I thought coming out of the game, another step forward for Max Holmes, another step forward for Zach Guthrie, another step forward for Graham Myers, who aren't super young brigade, but they're kind of that youngish brigade, heading probably right into the peak of their powers, and now taking bigger steps in their standing in the competition. Yeah,
I know Zach spoke yesterday during his press conference about just continuity and exposure at the top level. Obviously, he's being modest when asked about his own form. But it's true. Your confidence grows with the consistency of playing at the top level all the time. And I think we're seeing not only his defensive work excel, but he knows where he can be used in offense as well. And, he copied his brother, takes a little screamer, a little baby one, wet conditions, and then kicks a crucial goal to keep us in it at the end.
And that's the big one. You say that 24 touches, 6 intercept marks, which is just elite. But then getting forward, 3 score involvements, kicks that goal himself. That's another evolution in his game where it's not always going to work. Where it's going to be his turn to get forward and do that. But if he can threaten that, opposition have got to spend a lot more time looking at him and not just going, right, let's stop Tom Stewart.
Yeah, or Max Holmes or anyone who's going forward. Yeah, I particularly liked the play where he kicks that goal. He gets that overlap handball, he squeezed, so he goes out on the left, beautiful 40-metre left foot kick, tracks forward, left foot finish, snap. Easy
as you like. Very, very nice. No, wonderful player. Ollie Henry, very good as well. So were the two Toms, Tom Atkins and Tom Stewart. The Bendigo Banks Meet the Moment, which we talk about each week on the podcast. A couple of nominees have been floated up. Brad Close's hard running. He runs hard every single week. He tries his absolute guts out, but
he probably throws them up.
Yeah, he probably does
after that running.
But the one I'm thinking of where I think he hits Jeremy Cameron up and then continues to run hard forward. Jez then wheels and
one of the best kicks.
Pinpoint pass to Brad. That sort of work rate was huge by Brad Close. And the other one we've got to give a little bit of love to is Jai Clark's first goal, don't we?
How good was it? Was it third quarter and I'll tell you, Lingy, I was on it. Everyone's like, oh, that's good. Everyone's getting around him. It was like, first goal. Was he having a shot?
Of course.
Was he putting it to Blitz's advantage?
No, you claim it every time when it's your first goal.
Well, you can do both. Which is the last spot. Great block from Blitz as well. So that is a 1%er. But yeah, what a great moment for him. You can see the affection of all his teammates, and again, his tackling was, I felt, really elite. I love his technique. He gets in tight. Yeah, he's safe. Yeah. Against
big, hard, strong bodies of that Melbourne midfield, I thought I saw again another little step so early on in his career. Just okay. Yep, he's getting it. He understands it. He's going to be fine.
Yeah, you were at ground level. He's not a big guy.
No, not compared to Petrarca and Oliver and that, who are monster midfielders.
And I think on his highlights package, quite a few came in the fourth quarter. He seemed to really, I felt his ability to run and maintain those standards into a fourth quarter was impressive for a young player.
Righto, enough of that Melbourne talk.
Enough of that.
No, it is important to always dissect that, and I know that listeners love the fact that win, lose or draw, we have to look at the game and why we won, why we lost, those sorts of things. So we promise we will do that every single week. But we do want to move on to Friday night and the huge clash against Port Adelaide here at GMHBA Stadium. But first, we're going to take a quick break. Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on to the final bell. We are going to look forward to now a huge Friday night clash at GMHBA Stadium. Cats taking on Port Adelaide. Meg, one just quick little note. This game, assuming everyone gets through training and he's pulled up fine, Tom Hawkins will equal the club record of Joel Selwood for games played of 355 games. I know we're going to celebrate it more as we head into the following week, but still pretty cool.
Still really cool. And I think if we take Hawk's lead and he wants to make, I believe, the celebration, of course he does, about equaling Joel as opposed to surpassing him. So let's go all out this week and say, a massive congratulations. What an incredible achievement. I know you're catching up with a few of our games record holders.
I'm pretty excited about that. After we finished recording this, I'm going to catch up with some of the guys who are in the top 5 of games played at the Cats. Some of the, well, obviously Joel being one of those, but some of the other those.
Not too salty, Joel.
True legends. I wonder what Joel thinks. Hawks had to get one thing over Joel.
Yeah,
Joel was like Mr. Perfect, while Tom was also Mr. Perfect, but no, it's remarkable. I mean, Joel, the way he played the game, playing 355 games was remarkable. How hard he attacked the contest and everything like that. But Tom Hawkins is a key forward who's weighed in at over 100 kilos for his entire career, with playing on beasts as his direct opponent, while one or two other beasts
jump on him,
launch into him and plant knees into his back and his ribs, and he's playing the toughest position on the field as that key forward, and the one that we all look to and we all want to have this giant focus on, and we certainly are at the moment, ridiculously so. And
I'd actually like to take some responsibility here. I don't know if Jakey's going to get the audio up, but I don't know if you remember we were talking about it a few weeks ago. We're like, oh, he's on 790 goals. How good would it be if he breaks the record in the record-breaking game? And then you said, oh, well, I'd hope he'd kick a few more goals before that, but put the moz on him. Anyway, so this is where you can direct your criticism, because we're hearing none of it.
Yeah, and it's funny, I even, again on the weekend, seeing the amount of other work Tom does. I know we've already spoke about it last week. Don't need to go back there again, but still providing so much for the team. But yeah, to play that number of games with that much of a toll on his body and what's expected of him, it's remarkable. And the whole time he has stayed that incredible human being. Yeah. The trait that I've always loved most about him, which is very rare for key forwards, Meg.
All right.
He is incredibly selfless. Yeah. He is happy to assist in a goal. He's happy for a teammate to get glory. He's welcoming of Jeremy Cameron and making that work so beautifully. When he was a young player, Moons loved playing with him as a key forward because of they just worked so seamlessly together. And then he went through, with Podsy and all these combinations. Yeah. They worked so well because Tom, more often than not, was happy for the other person to get some glory and get some goals. It was all about the team getting goals. And that trait, as I said, is rare for a key forward. Yeah. And it's such a wonderful trait, and what a wonderful footballer.
Yeah, but it's a trait that's so formative for the group around him. And I think when you've played for such an incredibly long period of time, your influence on the environment and it's on you is that sort of like symbiotic relationship. It becomes a reflection of you and you a reflection of it. So to have traits like that on field and then that earn you respect off field, that shape the place that we all enjoy. I know we spoke a bit about that on his 350th, but it's a credit to him, and I'm sure to everyone that he surrounds himself with.
Absolutely, well said. He won't want too much more fuss made other than that, but we will move on to the game now. They do take on Port Adelaide. Port sitting 7th on the ladder, a good team who got a couple of little injury concerns at the moment. I think there's a bit of a watch, obviously, on Connor Rozee. Probably not going to play was my vibe.
Was your vibe from Ken?
Post-match, but who knows? Asava Radagalia coming back for his first game here. But a hugely important game for the Cats, not just because of milestones, not just because of the loss, but obviously every home game at GMHBA Stadium is crucially important to make the most of the home ground advantage, to keep those wins getting ticked up so that the club can keep managing the list in the right way. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, I'm stoked to be back home, as I'm sure all Cats fans will be. I remember playing Port here last year, I think, and we seem to really have that, to state the obvious, that home ground advantage. It's tight early and then...
That stayed tight right to the end,
but the familiarity with the ground and our finishing ability here, I think, is, obviously the best possibly in the league. Lots of people say we've got the biggest home ground advantage, and I know that the players are looking forward to getting back here, but... I'm also excited to watch Zach Butters run around because they've got some amazing talent and he can dance.
Yeah, he can dance. Jason Horn-Francis, a terrific player as well. So a really good midfield, even if their skipper's not playing. So it's a great matchup. Looking to our team, Tanner Bruin subbed off for Gary Rowan. Great to see Gary Rowan back in the AFL team, but subbed off Tanner Bruin, shoulder injury. Obviously, as we say every time on the podcast, check out the GMHBA health update on the Cats website. You'll be hearing from perhaps Andrew Mackey or Chris Scott or anyone like that on the health of Tanner Bruin.
You're doing well to get a health update from Scotty.
Yeah, true. He tends to let that one. No, good call. Tanner's been wonderful all year and played some great footy and obviously was missed when he came off. Would be missed if he didn't play this week. You've always got your ear to the ground. What's your feel? Check the health update.
Yeah, check the health update. I think no news is good news. That's what I've, and I can honestly say that's what I've heard. But I don't know. Should he not play? What the mix becomes? I actually really loved what Gary brought to the game on the weekend. I know he's not, it's not a like for like. He's not an inside mid, and you have to shuffle the decks a little bit. But I thought to go back to the game, his sort of corridor kick with that first possession, his speed and power, and his aerial ability as well, I thought straightened us up really well, and he is selfless in the vein of all other forwards at the club. So
I wonder if we see him in the 22 as opposed to the sub this week.
I reckon that's probably a good shout. We looked to the VFL results. I know Sean Manor had a cracking game, so I think there, as is always a good sign, plenty of people knocking on the door.
Yeah, and actually quickly jumping to that, thank you for that, Meg. The Cats in the VFL having a very comfortable win over Frankston. You mentioned Sean Manor kicked the 4 goals, did really well. So did Lawson Humphreys, who played a very, very good game. Ted Closey continues his really good form. Mitch Hardy continues his good form. So lots of people putting their hand up for a spot in a team that is very, very difficult to get in. There might be a little opening there if Tanner Bruhn doesn't come up.
I would like to see Ted Closey get a...
Yeah, he like every single week we do this, and even talking to the coaches, little conversations, he is always playing good footy and right there, basically doing exactly what you want from a young player, pretty much kicking down the door of the coaches to say, play me.
Yeah. Well, you can't ask for anything more, and Closey's are going pretty well thus far in the AFL, right? Producer Jake's been all across the bro. So, I mean, any one of them look, absolutely ready to step up. I know there's a real appetite to see Lawson Humphreys get a shot, get that left foot off half back, open that up. Tough line to crack into, but they all are at the moment, which says good things about the Cats.
It certainly does. Just quickly too, while we're talking about that VFLW, unfortunately the Cats going down by 5 points against the Blues. Abby McDonald dominated.
One of mine.
Yeah.
Actually, I did call Abby McDonald.
I did see briefly as I just quickly scanned the disposal winners, and I saw McDonald 34 touches. I was like,
you thought,
hang on, did you play? Did you ever run around on ball?
What would it feel like to have that much influence on the game, as to have that many touches? I've got absolutely no idea. No, I was just doing a strength session with Abby before, as she seems to have recovered from the leather poisoning. She's such a promising talent. She's been on our a couple of appearances in the AFLW so far. She's in my line, and it's really exciting to see her to do what you say and go to VFL level and dominate. So hopefully that is part of her beginning to translate it. Abby's just you'll know this kind of player, one where you're like, I can't from you anymore, Ab. So I'll go down in the gym, and I hope you listen, Abby. Go down in the gym. Oh, it's hard. Oh, I'm like, Abby, you're 34. You're good. Yep. You're good. So enough of that, and be good. Anyway, it's just if you could just clip that together for me, Jake, I'll send it to her.
This is why I love Meg's leadership. That is fantastic.
Saying it to the podcast and not to the player themselves.
I'm sure you say it to the player themselves too. Next game for the VFLW, for those who are keen, you can watch the AFL here on Friday night, obviously, against the Port Adelaide Power, and then Saturday, 12 p.m. at Deakin University, the VFLW team are playing. So plenty of football available this weekend. Also, for those who want to come along Friday night, still plenty of the general admission tickets to come in. Does that mean the standing rooms are going to be?
The CEO tells me it is just absolutely... I don't think I can say what I was going to say on the podcast, but it's going well. It's going really well. I think it's the hottest non-seat in the stadium. So
what a way to spend a Friday night.
Scan on in, stroll on over.
Two genuine premiership fancies playing against each other on the home deck of the Cats, and you can just wander in with a general admission and get a great standing spot right there.
That's right. Excuse me, just checking my messages as I do this, but I did get a note on quick update. Be in your seats at 6:40, please, Cats fans, because we've got the first light show of the season, I think. So
a light show,
little daylight savings change, and a bit of an entrance. So 6:40.
6:40. All right, there you go. You've heard it here on the podcast. Be in your seats by 6:40, or be in your standing spot in the much sought after standing room area there by 6:40. Also, speaking of little breaking nuggets that we've got here, I'm reliably told that the Cats have unveiled their Sir Doug Nicholls round Guernsey ahead of rounds 10 and 11. Which is always exciting, and I know a lot of Cats fans, and right across the league, all the Guernseys that are unveiled, people are keen to get a hold of them. This one from the Cats is titled "Layers of the Land," so it's very exciting, the fact that we've had it announced.
Yes, Lingy. We've had Sherry Johnston, who is a Kire Warong and Yorta Yorta woman. She's designed the Guernsey this year, and there's a beautiful piece. When she visited the club recently, she got interviewed and was very giving in her description of her design process and what it represents and the messages she'd like it to convey. So jump onto the First Nations Hub to check it out, or the Cat Shop to get your one. It's always... I love looking at the crowd when we're playing and seeing how everyone's invested each year in the Guernseys. So another beautiful one this year, and I'm really privileged to get, to be able to look forward to wearing it later on. Yeah,
sounds great. So that's obviously ahead of rounds 10 and 11, but as you said, jump to the Cat Shop and grab yours now.
You
very
can wear
exciting.
it to round 9 if you'd like.
Yeah, why not? Just quickly, last thing on round 9, obviously against Port Adelaide here. I want to see, this is where I love just looking at little...
Come on, let's go.
No, just looking at the little rhythms of the season. 7 wins to start the season. A loss, but scrappy. We're not at our best, but we, still a chance, sort of just a little clip, you cop those along the way. And I'm not even saying win or loss here. I'm just saying just the attitude response to no panic. No, we need to do a whole bunch of things differently. Just the gritting of the teeth and saying, okay, let's get back more to this.
Yeah.
Let's continue to be bold and brave when we're doing this with our ball movement. We're going to all defend in unison and as a group, and we're going to have this ferocious attack on the football. We're not going to change too much. We're just going to sharpen what it is that we really care about as a team. If I see that on display on Friday night, that sends a message to me that this is a team that really understands their game and has a level of maturity, even with the fact that some of that form and a lot of that form is being driven by players who've played 50, 60, 70 games, a Max Holmes type player or Tanner might not play, but a younger Tanner Bruin. He's going, okay, we get it's a long season. We get there's going to be hiccups along the way. Nobody's winning every single game for the year, but this is what we do. And when we do it well and together, we can beat anyone in the competition. That almost calm resolve of like, right, let's get back to work. Yeah, there's a steadiness to it, isn't it? It's not like the performance on the weekend needs a response that we often hear about. It's just a sort of, as you say, a reassertion of business as usual. So let's hope. We shouldn't expect anything other. I wouldn't. I wouldn't have thought from this group. Let's take another break because I want to get to some questions. I know lots of questions, and it's funny how a little loss and a not as good a performance does prompt occasionally more questions. That's fine. That's cool. It's an emotional game. And up next, we'll get to some of those questions. Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on to the final bell. Question time now. We love hearing from all of our listeners, so please keep those questions coming on in as we do every week. We try and get to as many as we possibly can. Meg, I'm going straight to you with this one because you know
I do know this
hell of a lot more than I do. When are round 16 to 24 released?
I didn't put this down, but that's from @QuirkDog. So.
Thanks, Quirk Dog.
Thanks, Quirk Dog. Next week. Is we can't put a day on it, but we're expecting them to be released next week. Just
for a little clarification, would I be right in saying it's more around 16 to 23 we will hear with the final round will remain floating?
Floaty float.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you @Quirk Dog. Love the names. All right, next question, and I don't have the name on this one either. What's the plan of attack for next week's clash with Port? We've perhaps covered that one a little bit. I think it's more of going back to the football we play.
I agree. Sorry, I was just looking. That one's from Ruby McCandish. So,
thanks,
hey, Ruby. Sent a number in. So we've chosen that one for you. Plan of attack, kick goals. Stop goals, kick goals.
And awareness, I think, of Port's strengths, which does revolve a little bit around Zach Butters that you mentioned and Horn Francis and the quality of that midfield. But
Yeah, I think that's a sign of a great team. That's too simple. The versatility that we have in our team and our lineup, I think, allows us more than other teams to counter opposition strengths and then assert our own.
Nice. This one's from Gem Tendo. Is that a version of Nintendo? I don't know. But that was a terrible joke. Why do players come to the bench straight after kicking a goal? I know this one infuriates some people.
It's for the round of applause.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
They want the standing ovation as they run off the ground. It is to do with players that are encouraged. They drive their own rotations. They understand how long they've been out there for. There is some communication from the bench either through signs or runner, but often a goal is a good opportunity to get a rotation in.
Yeah.
Why is it the one who's kicked the goal?
Is it the one that's? I know we highlight it. I don't know that it is as often as we would.
No.
Expect it to be.
Simply a coincidence. That player may have been on for an 8 or 9 minute block, and their rotation and almost their clock in their head is, I am to be off between 7 and 10 minutes.
Yes, that's what we're instructed.
I'm at 9
as
and I get a break.
Yeah. Do you think there should be some flexibility with that if you've got a hot hand?
If there's certain times of the game, certainly. If it's a forward and you've got an ability to, say you're playing as a deep forward and you can almost rest there a little bit and you've kicked one or two, or you've kicked 2 in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I think maybe your intention to come off is the right thing. I don't mind the idea of the communication from the bench basically just saying, nah, stay.
Yeah.
Stay.
Sorry, I was having a chuckle then because the intention, they're feigned, I've got to go. Oh, no.
Cool.
Stay.
I saw that as a stay. All right, I'll go back out there. Yeah, no, I think when you've got a match up in your advantage, and particularly if you're a bit deeper and you can use that as partial rest combined with also being a dangerous weapon, then I think you stay there.
Yeah.
And you feel that vibe, and clearly you've got some little advantage over that particular opponent if you've kicked 2 goals in 6 minutes.
Yeah. Having said that, the interchange is a weapon. And particularly if you're a speedy player, get your little rest, and then there's a reason for all the sports science. So
yes, there is.
Get back out there.
There is. As much as we want everyone just to stay out there all the time, it does have an impact. Certainly, come later on in the game.
Which of my teammates should I clip now? No, I
won't. This one's from Ham and Cheese 481. Nice name, Ham and Cheese. Do you think Jezza will kick 1,000 goals? He needs 400 in 6 years.
Well,
what's your maths there?
I don't know. What's my knowledge of Jez's contracts?
It's nearly 70 a year there, just under.
It would be one of the greatest feats. Well, would it? I don't know. I mean...
I think, yes, it would. Anyone who kicks 1,000 goals from a certain... So 2012 being his first year onwards is off the charts, because Buddy doing it was remarkable, but he still had a chunk of his career, a small chunk, but a chunk where 8s, 9s, 10s or a 13 was still a possibility. Yeah. I think those days are now gone. Jez or any of the key forwards, Max King, Ben King, whoever you want to go through those young star key forwards, I would be surprised if we see... I'd say we'd average 1 double figure bag every 3 years now.
Every 3 years. Per player or at all?
No, at all.
At all.
At all. Across the comp. Maybe every 2
That's
years across
when
the
was
comp.
Last? Yeah.
And was it Josh Bruce even perhaps kicked the 10 would be the last one, which I'm thinking was 2 years ago. So there's just not the opportunity to fill your boots up with 10s and 12s anymore. So I know Ham and Cheese is probably asking it with a bit of fun and tongue in the cheek, but listen, if anyone's capable, Jez is probably the one, but I'd say it would be, I don't want to say no because I love that possibility, but it would be difficult.
Could reverse psychology it and say no.
All right, last one. Doormat92, loving the pod team. Thank you, Doormat. As a player, what are the biggest things you learn from a loss?
as you said, it depends what kind of loss. But I think, to your point before, you learn where your team's at on a mentality level. I think that's what will be really interesting this week. And do you take it in your stride and reassert yourselves and your values and keep it simple? I think that's the best response. If you don't see that from your teammates in your environment, then you've probably got a few things to address.
I like the use of the word simple there. You probably just narrow your focus back down to simple fundamentals of what you do and the team does really well, and you lock back onto those a little bit more. And we're talking subtleties here, but obviously really important subtleties. Thank you for that question, Doormat. Time for us to wind up, Meg.
Yeah. We got through a loss, all good.
Yeah, we get the opportunity now to wander out onto the oval, or is it
day for it? I think you're in the stands.
I'm in the stands. Oh, that's
not.
Not
they'll probably.
That's not being set up in the middle of the oval for me, is it? But no, I am going to have the opportunity to talk to some of those 300-game players, as we alluded to a little bit earlier, which I'm really excited about. So we'll finish up the pod here. We will be back next week after the Cats take on Port Adelaide, GMHBA Stadium. Plenty of general admission tickets still available. The standing room's available. So come on down, cheer the Cats on, have a wonderful Friday night of footy, and hopefully the Cats have another win. And Meg, we will be back next week.
See you next week.